Anti-Defection Law and E.V. Ramaswamy or Periyar. So let us begin our discussion. And the first topic of today's session is based on this news article, which featured on page number 1 of the Hindu newspaper. Now, prisons in India face several kind of problem. One of them is related to caste-based segregation of work and caste-based discrimination. Now, Supreme Court, a bench of Supreme Court headed by CJI, has given its verdict that all those practices where there is a segregation of work based on the caste hierarchy, where uh, those who are so-called those who belong to a marginalized communities are specifically given or allocated the task in jails which are otherwise demeaning and not you can say it is violative of their dignity altogether. Further, there is another issue of treating the inmates of denotified tribes and uh, terming them as habitual offender and treating them in same manner. Now, Supreme Court has said all these practices are violative of the fundamental right of human dignity and personality. So, it has directed the states and central jail authorities to formulate and to come up with new rules and jail manuals so that these things can be avoided. So, it is kind of given a directive to revise these manuals. Now, further, Supreme Court has also asked to remove the column. There is a register in jail where there is a column. Jail authorities will mention caste of an individual there. So, Supreme Court has asked to remove that column altogether so as to contain these kind of activities. Now, from your UPSC examination perspective, this topic has relevance with the syllabus of GS paper 2, where it is related to or associated with the functioning of executive as well as judiciary, and also as part of criminal justice system. uh, the topic of government policies and intervention for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. So you can relate it to these two topics of your syllabus. So in this discussion, we will be looking at the various challenges associated with the prisons in India, and we will also see what are the suggestions that has been given by various committees and what government has done in this regard, and we will consider it or deal it as a way forward. So let us first discuss why we need reform. Now, the first and foremost reason is overcrowding. Now, NCRB data says that Indian prisons at an average are working at a capacity of 130%. So, just to understand in crude term, if capacity is 100, almost at an average, every prison is having 130 inmates, making more than 5 lakh of such people. Now, definitely, when there is an overcrowding, there would be a pressure on infrastructure or you can say facilities which are not designed for those extra people. Now, this overcrowding has its manifestation in poor hygienic condition, uh, poor hygiene, you can say poor medical facilities because staff is also very low, so they often miss out on the proper medical care. Then there are clashes among various um, you can say the criminal groups are there, and there are clashes because such overcrowding makes it difficult for jail authority to administer such overcrowded population in jail. So this is the root cause. Now, why there is an overcrowding, that makes our second very important reason is the number of under trial prisoners. Now, what is under trial? Now, let's say a person X is accused of something, as allegedly has committed some crime. Now this person will be taken into judicial custody pending the trial in court. Now you know that pendency is very high in our courts. So many a times what happens that many inmates are held for a duration which is longer than what could have been their sentence of their alleged crime. So NCRB says that out of the total number of inmates in jail, 76% are under trial. So this is violation of fundamental rights or rights on two counts. First is that of speedy trial, and second is that criminal jurisprudence say that a person will be termed as accused until proven guilty. So he is accused until proven guilty. But since you have held that person so long that he has crossed the very length of the what could have been the sentence, so the time that he or she is spending in jail, they are being stigmatized or looked upon as a criminal. So it is against the criminal jurisprudence to hold someone guilty for a longer duration. Next is when there is a huge number of under trial prisoners, when there is a overcrowding, definitely we lack infrastructure in all spheres of economy and social aspect. Now just imagine you are burdening that whatever the limited or you can say the poor level of infrastructure you have with extra number of people. Now they won't be having a proper clean place to live, the water supply, the sanitation, the eating area, resting area, recreational area, they are lacking upon everything. And to just put it into perspective, NCRB says that out of total central jail and state level jails, 60% lack the requisite set of or requisite state of infrastructure. Now, as I told you that there are less number of doctor and there are less number of people to care for these inmates, and this takes a toll on the mental health and overall health perspective of the inmates. Now, according to National Human Rights Commission, out of all the inmates, 20% are facing some kind of depression and anxiety in jail. Now, this is again because if this person comes out as someone who is not guilty of their offense, the damage has already been done. The health condition is poor, and there are natural deaths in hospital in jails, which runs to around the reported deaths runs around 1,000 deaths per year in various jail due to health related issues, and vulnerability was exposed during COVID also, when several jails became the hotbed of the spread of COVID virus because of the you can say, non-availability of proper medical health apparatus in jails. Then comes another issue, the corruption and abuse. Corruption on part of the jail authorities, where you might have heard about phones are there with the inmates, their arms are there. Now, drugs are also available inside the jail. Now, this is corruption on part of the jail authority. And abuse, both physical and mental. What we call causing custodial deaths. Now, again, according to NCRB, in 2021 alone, there were 88 custodial deaths. Now, Human Rights Commission, another expert, believe that these numbers are underreported because most of the death they are showing under either natural or some other kind of category. They are not accepting that these are the death caused by the physical or mental harassment or the pressure or the torture that they are giving in jails. So these are the issue. Another is the lack of focus on reformative approach. Now, jail is a place where we think that in criminal justice system, in words at least, we think of it as a place where we can reform a person, but this is not the reality. Now, lack of barring some model jails, there is complete lack of vocational and educational training to the inmates. So, what happens when they come out? They fail to reintegrate into the society. They kind of have this feeling of odd one out, and most of them face the relapse. They become repeated offender because they lack the capability to get assimilated into mainstream society. So this lack of focus on vocational and educational training is another issue that sheds light on the biggest challenge, that is the sole purpose, the reformation is not being focused upon. Then another report says that out of all inmates, 25% belong to SC, ST, or OBC communities. Now, this speaks two things. Most of them are either falsely accused, or they lack capacity for legal assistance. So, the section of marginalized community is representing the majority of the population in jail. So, it is kind of representative of, or it is kind of shedding light on a larger social discriminatory activity or inequality, because these marginalized community, most of them are either falsely accused or have not received any kind of legal assistance. Now, as per the news, you can add the point that has been raised by Supreme Court as part of this, because Supreme Court also has taken note of this marginalized section of population only, where there is they have found that there are caste-based discrimination and segregation of work. So what can be done? Here we can take help of some famous committees like A.N. Mulla Committee, which says that all India prison service should be set up, should be developed, so that to develop prison service as a professional career service. Now, another suggestion by A.N. Mulla Committee is National Prison Commission and Open Prison. That there should be a National Prison Commission as a continuing body to bring out modernization. Kind of continuous suggestion should be given to the government. Then for the overcrowding and under trial, high number of under trials, they have suggested a special fast track court by Justice Amitav Rao Committee in 2018 to deal exclusively with petty offences which have been pending for more than 5 years. Another is the personal recognizance bond. It was recommended by again Justice Amitav Roy Committee. It advocated for the release of accused on a personal recognizance bond if they are charged with minor offences and granted bail but are unable to secure security, because once you are granted a bail, you have to give a security. So those who are unable to give security, there should be provision of personal recognizance bond. Another is Model Prison Manual, which was brought in 2016, but the latest step was in 2023 with the Model Prison Act to replace the pre-independence era of Prison Act of 1894. So just imagine, the prisons in India were following what has been mentioned in an act which was created in 1894. Now this Prison Act has come, and it will enable state. Now it is up to states to take cue from this act and change in their manual, and certainly they have not done so till date, and that is why Supreme Court has again asked them to revamp or to revise their manuals within 3 months. So these are the way forward, and let's move on to the next topic of today's session, that is India and the West Asian crisis. Now, inspiration for this news comes from this news article that is explained on page number 17 of Indian Express newspaper. And you know that ongoing crisis in Asia is growing day by day, from Hamas, Israel, till Gaza, to Lebanon, now spiraling into a confrontation between Iran and Israel. Now, India, as an emerging global power, has its interest at high stakes. High stakes are there in West Asian region particularly, because India is engaging with all the major powers like Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, and they have to walk a tightrope in this situation. And so this article is all about this, that what are the challenges that India is facing, and what are the way forward that India can take up. Now, from your GS syllabus perspective, that bilateral, regional, global groupings and agreements involving India or affecting India's interest. So there are several regional grouping and which India is a part of. Now another is effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest and Indian diaspora. So let us begin our discussion by first discussing what are the challenges, what are the issues that India is facing right now with this spiraling up of Iran Israel issue. The first is, as your syllabus also mentions, impact on diaspora. Now, if you will talk about Israel, at present around 18,000 Indian citizens are there, and around about 10,000 Indian citizens are residing in Iran. And if you will talk about the West Asian region, around 9 million population, or you can say Indian citizens, are residing in the West Asian and Gulf countries. And they are source of huge remittances, and also the opportunity for job that they get in these regions. Now, the first and foremost challenge is how to protect this population when a full-fledged war or a conflict gets kind of starts between Israel and Iran. It would be a challenge to save this population or to evacuate this population. Second is, India is having economic interest in the region. Now, if you will talk about, the most important thing is energy security. Now, these days, we have procured the discounted oil from Russia and other countries, but fact of the matter is that still 80% of crude is coming from the Gulf countries and West Asian region. Now, definitely, any any war or any crisis in this region is going to hurt India's supply chain. Secondly, India is planning to get connected to the Central Asia and Afghanistan through ports like Chabahar in Iran. Now, again, any aggravated situation will bring sanctions on Iran, and those sanctions are going to affect India's interest, like that in Chabahar port in Iran, which India is developing and has signed MOU with. Now, any such situation definitely going to impact India's economic interest. Third is, there are strategic imperative also. And now the article uses the word curated. So this is true that India gradually has curated its strategic relation with almost all the big players of the West Asian and Gulf region. Now it has several regional grouping, international grouping, several strategically important you may say MOUs and plans. Like India has recently became part of I2U2, that is India, Israel, USA, and UAE. Secondly, India is looking forward for an India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, IMEC. Then NSTC, that is North South Transport Corridor. All these is strategic, all these corridors and you can say supply chain lines are not just important from the perspective of economy, but it is also a maneuver which is targeted towards China to counter China, the influence of China. So definitely any conflict in this region is going to impact or it will impact and act as a hurdle for any of such initiative by India, because parties to this initiative will be in conflict. Now, lastly, the tightrope, the diplomatic balance. Now, there was a news that uh, there was a heated confrontation between Israeli envoys and envoys from Iran in New Delhi recently. But problem is that in reality also, how do you balance the situation, because you are a close ally to Israel, getting all kind of technology, defense technology, agricultural related technology, and other you can say the and recently the IT related high tech technology, surveillance related technology, all those we are getting from Israel. Simultaneously, the crude oil, the energy security we are getting from Iran. Now, balancing between two countries will be another challenge for India. So, for this, author has to suggest some uh, way forward. That is, it is important for India that the conflict doesn't take a wider regional dimension. And India wants that all issues be addressed through dialogue and diplomacy. So, mediation that India can go for, so that this conflict does not takes up a wider covers a wider regional dimension. Second, India's stance on de-escalation and return to diplomacy is crucial for preserving its national interest amidst the volatile regional dynamics. And as we said, it has not offered to play any mediatory role. So, to play any meaningful role as a possible mediator, India will need, apart from communication channel with both sides, significant leverage with them as well, because only then India can initiate a dialogue, and it is matter of national interest as well as the global peace. So that's all for main session. Let us take up the prelim section. And the first question for prelim section is inspired from this news article which featured on page number 14 of the Hindu newspaper. Now Marathi, Bengali, along with Assamese and Pali and Prakrit. These five languages have been added as a classical language. Now, earlier the list contained six languages, namely Tamil, Sanskrit, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, and Odia. These six languages were accorded the distinction of classical language. Now, along with these six language, these five language will also get this title of classic language or the status of classic language by the Union Cabinet. Now, total 11 languages are there, and as you can see, there is classical language and uh, the just a moment, sorry. As you can see here, classical language is an important theme from the perspective of UPSC examination, and in 2014, UPSC has asked a question based on identifying the classical language by the government. So we have curated an MCQ based on the same. But before solving the MCQ, let us quickly look into the criteria. Now, criteria was first brought in 2005, which says that the language that demonstrated high antiquity of its early text or a recorded history spanning 1500 to 2000 years. Now, possession of a body of ancient literature or text considered valuable heritage by successive generation of speakers. Now, third criteria is originality of the literary tradition, not borrowed from another speech community. Fourth is distinctiveness between the classical language and literature from its modern counterparts, potentially involving a discontinuity. Now, this was revised in the year 2024. And again, the recorded history remains same, period of 1500 to 2000 years. Uh, Again, body of ancient literature and text, which is considered a heritage by generations. This thing is something which is different from the previous criteria. Knowledge text, especially prose text, in addition to poetry, epigraphical and inscriptional evidence. It must have these things, and again must be distinct from its current form and could be discontinuous with later forms of its offshoot. Now, as we discussed that there were six classical language. Now, with addition of five, total 11 are there. Now, you all know that Schedule 8 contains 22 language, which we call scheduled language. Now, just remember this point. Only Only nine classical out of 11, only nine classical languages are listed in 8th schedule of the Constitution. Pali and Prakrit are not mentioned. So if you will go by the chronology, first was Tamil and latest was Odia in 2014. But now in 2024, they have added five new languages: Marathi, Assamese, Bengali, Pali and Prakrit. So let us take up the practice question. Question says, uh, Tamil was first language to be given classical status in India. Now this statement is correct. It was in the year 2004. Second statement says a classical language must have a recorded history of more than 2000 years. Now this statement is incorrect because requirement is 1500 to 2000 years, not more than 2000 years. Third statement says the eighth schedule of Constitution lists all classical language. No, this is incorrect. It lists only nine classical language, namely Assamese, Bengali, Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi, Sanskrit, Odia, Tamil, Telugu. So these are the nine languages which are listed under 8th schedule, and you have been asked to find the statements which are not correct. So statement 2 and 3 are not correct, so your answer will be B. Now, the next question is based on this news article which featured on page number 8 of the Hindu newspaper titled Split Decision. Now, this news editorial is based on the recent acts done by some speaker of some assemblies and ECI. Basically, this news is based on the fight between two factions of NCP in Maharashtra. Now, one faction got the traditional clock symbol and another faction got a trumpet, a local instrument, tura, we call it, and trumpet is the English word. So now these two factions, now this faction that got the trumpet, they are challenging the decision of giving clock to the another faction, and they are saying that this creates a confusion because clock has been the traditional symbol of NCP. Now, in this whole fight and you can say discussion between two factions of NCP, this editorial says that ECI and Office of Speaker have not played fair in case of defection. So, according to this editorial, there are several flaws that how Speaker of the Assembly acted and how ECI acted. And constitutional provisions like anti-defection law and other issues related to electoral politics are important from the perspective of UPSC examination. As you can see that UPSC in 2022 has asked a question based on anti-defection law, and we have curated a similar question but based on the power of a speaker or chairman under anti-defection law. So, anti-defection law, 10th schedule of the Constitution, and the main provision, MP and MLAs. This was brought in to check the uh, frequent fall of government, jumping of MPs and MLA from this party to that party, premature dissolution of houses, multiple election in an year. So it was brought in, and there are some conditions based on which MP or MLA can be disqualified. And who will be the decision making authority? Speaker of the Lok Sabha or chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Whosoever is the presiding officer in case of a state assembly, speaker of a state legislative assembly, and the chairman of the legislative council of the state, MLC, legislative council, the upper house of the state, if the state has any. So, on what condition MP or MLA can be disqualified? First is if he voluntarily gives up membership. Second is you all might be aware of the term whip, party whip. Now, if a person, if an MP or MLA votes contrary to the party direction, that is party whip, without informing the party, and if party has not condoned the action within 15 days, he or she will be disqualified. Another is when independent member joins any party. If you are elected as an independent member and immediately you join a party, you are fit to be disqualified by the speaker or the chairman. But in case of nominated member, if you can join if you are joining any party after 6 months, you will be disqualified after 6 months. Before 6 months, you will not be disqualified. And there are certain exemption. So when assuming the post of a speaker or chairman, the person who has been appointed or elevated to this position, they can resign from the party. And in case of merger, that is two-third of the member of any party kind of give effect to any merger with another party or faction. So these are the two exemption. Now, question says, which of the following is not a function of the speaker or chairman under anti-defection law? Not a function. Statement 1 says, deciding whether a member of the legislature has incurred disqualification under the 10th schedule. Yes, it is the decision-making authority. Allowing a member of the legislature to resign from their party to avoid disqualification under the anti-defection law. Yes. Providing an opportunity to the member to present their case before deciding on the disqualification. Yes. Last statement says, referring to the matter of disqualification to the election commission. No, because decision making authority is a speaker or chairman. So there is no rule or no convention where they are referring matter, and it is kind of compulsory step to refer the matter to election commission for final decision making. So your answer would be D. This is not the function of a speaker or chairman. That brings us to the last question of today's session, and which is about the Periyar Memorial, which is going to come up in the Alappuzha district of Kerala. Now, Tamil Nadu government is going to make this, you can say, memorial of E.V. Ramasamy, or popularly known as Periyar, in the state of Kerala. Now, Kerala government has provided land for this memorial, and it is tax free. It has not taken any tax, and now Tamil Nadu government will create a memorial, because this is a place of very importance, because during Vaikom Satyagraha, Vaikom Satyagraha, various leaders associated with this movement were arrested and kept here. The place is named as, if I can pronounce it correctly, it, it's Aruputi, if I'm correct. So it is in Alappuzha district, and associated with Viacom. So he was arrested and detained here, Periyar. So important personalities and life events related to them are important theme from perspective of UPSC examination. As you can see, in 2019, they have asked various movement, organization, and associated leaders. So these are social reformers of India, and any day you can expect another question based on them. So let us quickly look into, before solving the question, let us quickly look into who is Periyar. So he worked as a Congress party member till 1925. Then there was a dispute over an issue of uh, arrangement of a Brahmin and non-Brahmin boys separately in a school for having food during lunch. So there was a disagreement between Periyar and other Congress leaders over this issue, where he was opposed of this idea of making an arrangement where Brahmins and non-Brahmins were sitting separately. So then he associated himself with the Justice Party of Madras. A very important movement that he started was in 1925. We know it as self-respect movement, and the focus was on upliftment of the Dravidians and to expose the Brahmanical tyranny. This was the main focus. Apart from this, self-respect movement also advocated about abolishing child marriage, forced widowhood, and kind of it it supported the idea of widow remarriage, and child education, women education, all those issues they supported. He founded major Tamil generals named as Kodiyarasu, Purachi, and Vidu Thalai. And he was, another important event of his life is that he was against the idea of Kula Kalvi Thitam. Now, what was it? This was a kind of education system where you can take a cue from this word Kula, Kul, family. So in this education system, this was advocated by C. Rajagopalachari. And in this education system, what apart from the learnings, the educational learning from books, students were taught or they were trained in their profession of their family. Whatever the profession their family had, these students were also trained in school for that profession, that particular profession. So he was a strong opponent of this uh, scheme of education. Now, Tamil Nadu Women's Conference, appreciating the noble services of Ramasamy, gave the title of Periyar, and UNESCO in 1970s accorded him the title of Socrates of South Asia. So, further, there are some major, because this news article is also related to Viacom Satyagraha, so you must understand what was it. Now, Viacom is a place under Travancore, present-day Kerala, Travancore dynasty. Now there was a Shiv temple, and which was not open to people who were termed as lower caste. Even the situation was so grave that surrounding area they were not allowed to travel or walk on roads also. So this temple entry movement and issue was first raised by Ezwal leader T.K. Madhavan, and then protest followed, which was led by T.K. Madhavan, K.P. Keswa Menon, George Joseph. Now, another thing, the Kerala Congress formed an Untouchability Eradication Council. Now, this satyagraha was supported by Mahatma Gandhi also, and he went ahead and gave his support to this. So, this Untouchability Eradication Council was developed under the leadership of K. Kelappa. Ultimately, in 1935, the King of Travancore gave a decree and opened the door for everyone. Now, what was the contribution of Periyar? Now, he arrived in Viacom in 1924, and they opted for Satyagraha, and he was jailed, and then he was released again, and again he was re-arrested, and then he came to be known as Viacom Virar, hero of Viacom. So Viacom is a place, and temple entry movement was associated, which was started by T.K. Madhavan. Now let's take up this question, and you have to identify the correct statement. The statement one says the Viacom Satyagraha was launched by T.K. Madhavan, which is correct. An Untouchability Eradication Council was formed in Kerala under leadership of Ramasamy Naikar. This is incorrect. It was formed under the leadership of K. Kelappan. Third statement says E. Ramaswamy Naikar introduced Kula Kalvi Thitam. Now he was opposed to this form of education. So this statement is also incorrect. So as you had to find the correct statement, our answer would be A, that is only one. So that's all for today's session. If you have any doubt, you can drop it in our comment box. Our team will give you the reply as soon as possible. If you like the initiative, do like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's all for today's session. Stay tuned for more such updates. Thank you.